talk about this question. In this question, they are asking a financial services company has a compliance requirement that all the archived data must be preserved exclusively in a non-rewritable and non-erasable format. What solution satisfies this requirement in the most cost-effective way? The option we are having: enable Amazon S3 versioning, enable Amazon S3 object lock, implement Amazon S3 bucket policy with deny statement for object delete operation, implement Amazon S3 glacier vault lock. So these are the four options given for this question, and the requirement here, we need to look for a solution that satisfies this requirement. That what is our requirement? That all the archived data must be preserved exclusively in a non-rewritable and non-erasable format, and also the requirement should be most cost effective. The option, if we will check, we have the Amazon S3, Amazon S3 object, Amazon S3 bucket, and Amazon S3 glacier. If we will talk about the cost effective way, then Amazon S3 only we have the options, and these things like versioning will not keep the data for non-rewritable or erasable format, so that will not fulfill our requirement, even the other options given. So anyway, for the most cost effective, we will go with the implement Amazon S3 glacier vault lock for this question. Let's talk about this question. In this question, they are asking, there is a set of EC2 instances in a private subnet. The application hosted on these EC2 instances need to access a DynamoDB table running on AWS. It needs to be ensured that the traffic does not flow out to the internet. How can this be achieved? The option we are having: use a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB, use a VPN connection from the VPC, use a NAT gateway from the VPC, use a VPC peering connection to the DynamoDB table. So let's talk about the options one by one. If we will talk about use a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB, that is correct, because VPC endpoint for DynamoDB enables Amazon EC2 instances in our VPC to use private IP address to access DynamoDB with no exposure to the public internet. So this is our correct choice for this question. Let's talk about other options also to understand better about this question. This option, use a VPN connection from the VPC, is not correct in this case, because VPN connection is required to establish a connection between on-premises to AWS cloud platform, right? So it will not help here to access DynamoDB table. So this is not correct. Let's talk about this question, this option. This option is also not correct, because we know that NAT gateway is required to connect our EC2 instances from the private subnet to reach to the internet. But here we don't want that one, so that's wrong. And use a VPC peering connection to the Dynamo table. As we know that VPC peering is required when we need to connect multiple VPCs, right? It's like a peering. So that is also will not help in this case. So these three options are wrong. So our choice for this question will be use a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB. Let's talk about next question now. Let's talk about this question. In this question, they are asking, a company hosts a popular web application that connects to an Amazon RDS MySQL DB instance running in a private VPC subnet that was created with the default network ACL settings. The IT security department has a suspicion that that is DDoS attack is coming from a suspecting IP. How can you protect the subnets from this attack? The option we are having: change the inbound security groups to deny access from the suspecting IP, change the outbound security groups to deny access from the suspecting IP, change the inbound NACL, that is network access control list, to deny access from the suspecting IP, change the outbound NACL to deny access from the suspecting IP. So about these options, if you see, there are two options with the security groups and two options with the NACL. So let's understand first about the security group. Security group works on an instance level, not the network level. So the thing is here, the attack which is coming from a suspecting IP, so we need to avoid something at the network level, means the VPC network layer. So these two will not help in this case. So first and second is not correct in this case. Third and fourth, here we have inbound and outbound. As we know, the DDoS attack is coming, obviously it is coming from the internet to from suspecting IP. So the thing is, we are talking about the incoming traffic, and that we need to avoid, right? So in this case, we will go with the change the inbound NACL to deny access from the suspecting IP. So this will be our correct choice, and this will not, because there is nothing related to outbound NACL for this one. So the thing is, our answer will be the option 3. Let's talk about next question now. Let's talk about this question. This question they are asking, a company wants to have a secure way of generating, storing and managing cryptographic keys, but they want to have exclusive access over management of the keys. Which of the following can be used for this purpose? The option we are having: use KMS and the normal KMS encryption keys, use KMS and use an external key material, use S3 server-side encryption, use cloud HSM. Here, if you will see here the requirement, they want that the customer should have the access over the management of the keys, right? So let's go through the option one by one. Use KMS and the normal KMS encryption key. The management of these keys are within AWS, so it is not valid for our requirement. Use KMS and use external key material, that is also managed within AWS, so that is also not possible here. Option C is, that is use S3 server side encryption, is also not correct here, because S3 server side encryption does not generate or manage cryptographic keys. So this is also wrong. So we are left with only one option: use cloud HSM. That is correct choice for this question, because cloud HSM allow us to securely generate, store and manage cryptographic keys used for data encryption in a way that keys are accessible and managed only by us. So in this case, we will go with the option 4, use cloud HSM for this question. Let's talk about next question now. In this question they are asking, a company is hosting a website that must be accessible to users for HTTPS traffic. Also, port 22 should be open for administrative purpose. The administrator's workstation has a static IP address, that is 203.0.113.1/32. Which of the following security group configurations is the most secure but still functional to support these two requirements? We need to choose two answers from the options given below. So we have 4 options here. So there is 2 requirements here. The website that must be accessible for HTTPS traffic, as it is website, so we are expecting a traffic from the internet. So just understand, whenever we talk about the internet, and then we have to think about the subnet in the range 0.0.0/0. So it's represent internet. So let's understand about the options. Port 443 coming from this internet range, port 443 coming from this 0.0.0.0/16, port 22 coming from this internet range, port 22 coming from a specific IP that is given for the workstation. So the thing is, when we are talking about the HTTPS traffic, they are talking about the port 443. So in this case, we are talk about 443 coming from the internet, that is correct, because that will meet our first requirement. And another requirement that it should be accessible through this particular IP on port 22, right? So now this is not correct. Here they are talking about the traffic port 22 coming from the internet, so that is also we don't want. We don't want only that administrator system should access this website, this on port 22, so that will help us. So our answer for this question will be option 1 and option 4. Let's talk about next question now. In this question they are asking, your company has an EC2 instance that is hosted in an AWS VPC. There is a requirement to ensure that log files from the EC2 instances are stored in a secure manner. The access should be limited to the log files. How can this be accomplished? The option we need to choose 2 options out of 4. The option we are having, stream the log files to a separate cloud trail, stream the log files to a separate CloudWatch log group. Third option they are talking about, create an IAM policy that gives the desired level of access to the cloud trail. Create an IAM policy that gives the desired level of access to the CloudWatch log group. So here our requirement is that we need to ensure that log files from the EC2 instance are stored in a secure manner. So we need to look for the log file. So in the option we have 2 types of options out of 4. Like 2 options are talking about the cloud trail and 2 options are talking about the CloudWatch. So if you know that CloudTrail is used for tracking the activities related to API, means it will record the API activity, it is not used for storing the log file. So the option related to the CloudTrail will not work here directly. So I'm ruling out those options for this one. So these 2 are wrong and we need to choose. So what is the actual way how we can accomplish it? We need to stream the log file to a separate CloudWatch log group. So that is first option, and next we will create an IAM policy that gives the desired level of access to the CloudWatch log group. So this, with these 2 options we can accomplish the requirement for this question. Let's talk about next question now. In this question they are asking, you have an EC2 instance in a private subnet that needs to access the KMS service privately within the AWS network. Which of the following methods can help to fulfill this requirement, keeping security in perspective? So what we needed, you have an EC2 instances in a private subnet and that need to access the KMS service privately within the AWS network. Which of the following? Means within the AWS network, it should not go beyond AWS network, means it will not go to the internet. The option we are having, use a VPC endpoint, attach an internet gateway to the subnet, attach a VPN connection to the VPC, use VPC peering. As we are talking about, we need to connect privately the AWS service, so we will use a VPC endpoint. We don't want to connect to the internet, so this will not work here. We don't want to create connection between the on-premises to VPC cloud platform, so it will also not work. And also we don't want to make connection between different VPCs, so this will also not work here. So our answer will be use a VPC endpoint. Let's talk about next question now. Let's talk about this question. In this question they are asking, your application currently uses customer keys which are generated by AWS KMS in the US East region. You now want to use the same set of keys from the EU Central region. How can this be accomplished? The option we are having, export the key from the US East region and import them into EU Central region. Use key rotation and rotate the existing keys to the EU Central region. Use the backing keys from the US East region and use it in the EU Central region. This is not possible since keys from KMS are region specific. So let's talk about the options one by one. Here they are asking export the keys from the US East region and import them into the EU Central region. It's not correct because keys cannot be exported and imported across AWS region. So it is region specific, so it will not work here. Second option, use key rotation and rotate the existing key to the EU Central region. This is also not possible because for this one we need to export the keys. That is not possible for across region. This will also not work. And option C is also not correct because backing keys cannot be used to export keys. So I don't think so it is correct. This is not possible since keys are KMS are region specific. That is correct. We can use the keys within the same region, not across region. So it will not work here. That's why we will go with the last option. So guys, that's it in this video. I hope you like the content and the questions explanation. I hope these will help you to learn and grow in your career.